Cleaning up after yesterday's torrential downpour. A first responder rescues a woman from floodwaters. A tree falls onto a home after a lightning strike. Cars submerged in water.
Retaining walls giving way, all that after just a couple of hours of rain. The removal of this destruction now underway. And ABC 7's Dylan McKim assessed the damage. He's live in East El Paso to show us the aftermath. Dylan.
Eric, Stephanie, I'm on TRAWOOD Drive, and as you can see here, massive damage on this street, this sinkhole forming after last night's storm. But as I was going around El Paso today, this wasn't the only damage I saw. Torrential downpour leading to this. Heavy flooding in El Paso at intersections like here at McRae and Gateway. Cars submerged underwater, and even someone having to be rescued. This is Monday morning. 2 to 3 inches of mud accumulating at McRae and Gateway.
I knew it was going to do something.
Ramon Ontiveros is the maintenance man for East Lake Shopping Center right next to McRae. His job was to clean up handrails that had been knocked off their post.
I love the rain, but I guess now I'm going to have to like the work because I got to work now even harder.
Just up the road on Wedgwood, this scene. A rock wall demolished. The homeowner not wanting to talk to us on camera, but she told us she was surprised it fell. They had been doing maintenance to their wall. Her neighbor was there to help her Sunday night.
That was pretty unnerving because, of course, you know, my wall's there also.
Eastwood Park becoming Eastwood Lake, and this East El Paso street turning into a sinkhole.
It poured.
John Kohanek has lived here for over 40 years. He's never seen rain like this before. His rain gauge picking up 3 inches in under an hour. The street outside his house, water from curb to curb.
It sounded like in the mountains when you're up at one of the rivers. It was loud and flowing just like a river.
That river opening a hole in the ground. Back here live at this sinkhole, the neighbors I spoke with tell me they're worried that future rain is going to make this problem even worse. So this road is completely closed off. You can see the barrels behind me. The city of El Paso also sent out other streets that are closed off. You can find a list of those streets on our website at kvi.com. Just look up this story. Reporting live in East El Paso, Dylan McKim, ABC 7.
You worry about the integrity of those those rock walls that are right next to where all that damage is right now. Dylan, thank you. The storm track weather now. Chief Meteorologist Dalper Dave Spielman has a look at our first forecast. Dalper, this was just such impressive damage in such a quick amount of time. It's much of what we've been seeing over the last several weeks.
Yeah, and like we've been talking about, in real estate, it's location, location, location. Sometimes that happens with the rain and the thunderstorms. You know, my part of town in the Upper Valley just saw some sprinkles, some light rain. That was it. Not really a whole lot to measure out there, but I could certainly see the storms. I was tracking it on our radar app as well and keeping in contact with the folks here at ABC 7. But look what we're tracking right now. We don't have anything bearing down on us, but as we look a little bit closer, we'll zoom into Otero County. There we got some pretty healthy thunderstorms, which are south of Alamogordo. Here's Highway 54. So everything, the heaviest activity is to the east of you guys, but look at all the lightning with these particular thunderstorms. Farther north, you can see right around Tularosa area as well, and to the north and also to the southwest of town heading towards White Sands. We'll talk about our rain chances, our latest future track computer model, all coming up.
All right, Doppler, thank you. A woman makes a disturbing discovery after returning home. El Paso police say she found her mother being mauled to death by the family's dogs. It happened Sunday evening in West El Paso on the 7,000 block of Royal Arms. Investigators say they found the dog bowls full of food and water, and the dogs were generally well cared for. One neighbor who spoke to ABC 7 says they've had issues with the dogs before.
They bark all the time when we go by, and in fact, they scare my wife because we have to go by that house in order to get to our male cluster box.
The 2 pit bulls are now in the custody of animal control.
The trial began today for a Las Cruces man accused in the death of his girlfriend's toddler, but the jury won't have access to critical pieces of evidence. ABC 7's Kate Beery explains why and what they won't see. She reports from the Doña Ana County District Court from our New Mexico Mobile Newsroom.
A Las Cruces jury won't have access to 911 calls, photos of the toddler's injuries, or interviews with the defendant because the prosecutors failed to submit that critical evidence by a deadline, according to the Doña Ana County District Attorney's Office. Still, the trial began today.
They did observe bruising on her body, on Faviola's body, especially bruising on her forehead. Significant, noticeable bruising on her forehead. Sandra will tell you that bruising was not there when she went to work at 9 and left Fabiola in the hands of the defendant.
Back in 2018, officers responded to this home in North Las Cruces. Inside, they found 2-year-old Fabiola Rodriguez. Police say she was not breathing. They arrested LALO Castrillo, 23 at the time of the incident. Investigators say Fabiola had visible bruises on her head, chin, and torso. An autopsy showed injuries to her brain consistent with blunt force trauma.
People at the hospital trying to resuscitate Fabiola. Those injuries were caused by medical personnel. Clearly not intentional. They were trying to help Fabiola, but they were not caused by Mr. Castillo.
The trial runs through Friday. Our cameras were not allowed inside the courtroom because staffers cited COVID-19 restrictions, but we are in the building to bring you the latest breaking details. Reporting from the 3rd Judicial District Court with our New Mexico Mobile Newsroom, Kate Beery, ABC 7.
Go for launch. This tweet went out within the last hour from the Blue Origin account. It shows the smiling crew of New Shepard's first human flight. From left to right, there's Mark Bezos and Jeff Bezos, brothers. The youngest and oldest person who will fly into space, Oliver Damon and Wally Funk.
Meanwhile, a quiet Texas town is suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Van Horn, with a population of a few thousand, now the site of a historic launch. ABC 7's Mauricio Casillas picks up our complete coverage of the race to space. He's live from outside the Blue Origin launch site. Mauricio.
Hey, good evening there, Eric. If you're just joining us and if you're just getting incorporated with what's going on here, you wouldn't notice it if you're driving down US 54 here. You wouldn't notice that there was a site of a major rocket launch pad over here in the distance. But now you know that Blue Origin is situated here because of that sign that has just been posted up this week. And that's where we've seen people constantly congregating throughout this afternoon, all of them taking pictures just to prove that they're going to be part of this historic launch and they're going to be there to document it. And the town of Van Horn is reaping those benefits.
Raul Rodriguez, the owner of town favorite Gilbert's Restaurant, has lived in Van Horn his whole life. He's used to knowing all of his customers, but now he sees
different people from different cities. Our business has been doubled for the past 3-4 days, so it's great for Van Horn.
I think there's a little bit of excitement. We've got a spotlight on Van Horn, which we haven't had for many years.
Culberson County Sheriff Oscar Carrillo has witnessed several of Blue Origin's test flights.
You're not going to see a whole lot. From out there. You'll hear the thud when the thing comes off the ground, and you'll see a plume of smoke as it disappears into orbit, and then shortly you'll see the parachute come down with the capsule.
He's also met one-on-one with Bezos.
He's a very low-key, discreet man, as the richest man in the world would be, right?
As for Rodriguez, he tells me he won't be able to enjoy the launch, but for a good reason.
So you wanted to go see the launch, but your wife said no. You need to be here to make a buck.
She said, we need to keep the people satisfied. I need your support here, so she's the boss.
Hey, you heard him say it. She's the boss. And always important when you're in a relationship like that. Pay attention, because that's the most important thing. Now, if you are planning on heading out here to Van Horn, as I mentioned at the beginning of this story, we're about 20 miles north of the town. US 54 behind me is going to be all closed off. So this is the closest we can get today. That won't be the case tomorrow. You can only head about 6 or 7 miles north of Van Horn to then be able to see the launch from there. So we're reporting about 20 miles north of Van Horn. Let's send things over to Saul Saenz, who's live from the town of Van Horn. Saul.
Hey Mauricio, yeah, I've been to Gilbert's Restaurant, and it is owned by Rosa because she is the wife and therefore the boss, and she actually wants the name out there, Rosa's, instead of Gilbert's. Very good food, great chile relleno. I'm standing outside the Clark Hotel and Museum, built in 1901. People, as you said, are coming in droves over here to Van Horn, but they also want to see this, not just the launch. They want to see this little rocket right here. You may have learned on ABC 7 at 5, postcards dropped off right here in this miniature rocket won't actually make it out into space. You just sign the postcard, put your return address on it with a stamp on it, and it'll be returned mailed address to the address that you put on there. I caught up with a teacher from Alamogordo, New Mexico, who's here to not only watch the launch, but also wants to use the postcard she deposited into this rocket right here as a teaching tool for her students.
I want to use it as a teaching tool. I want to use it as an opportunity for my students to see that there's life outside of Alamogordo. The reason why they need to learn in elementary, how it all builds up. But it's a monumental moment for my students to be able to actually touch something that physically traveled out of space.
Now, I do have an update for our viewers, folks who came here to drop off their postcard today. These postcards will not make it up into space with Jeff Bezos. Those were actually picked up last week, but these will go on a future Blue Origin launch. So, folks, Eric, Stephanie, Doppler, give me names of your kids. I have 3 postcards right here. I'll put their addresses on them. I have stamps. We'll send it up, and guess what? You, too, will get a piece of space. Back to you guys, Stephanie and Eric.
Give me names to your kids. So you already know the answer to that, and if you don't, then you haven't been paying attention. Avery and Jack, by the way. Good Morning El Paso will bring you complete coverage of Blue Origin's launch live tomorrow from 4:30 a.m. through liftoff at 7 a.m. He should know yours too,
Yeah,
Stephanie.
but I'll text the spelling for you, so we'll